new information. Today we talked to Hosea Williams, and there's a testimonial going on for Joe Lowry down in Atlanta. And we done caught all these boys in the hotel with some real updated film that we're asking them to look at that is deeply compelling. And those people who were there at the Lorraine Motel are excessively impressed with what we put together by matching pictures with background footage. The typical shit we've been doing all along has now sailed up to the level where those people who are active participants have opened up the door and made all of themselves available to a film crew. And we filmed, we took our second interview today with Hosea Williams, second film crew. I told you we called up with Steve Tompkins, who is in the Turning Point program, who is now Special Assistant to the Governor of Georgia, who wrote the Memphis Commercial Appeal article that Captain Hughes blew up years ago here in Washington. And we got to Hosea Williams, we got Reverend Sampson down there, Joe Lowry, Ben Hooks. They're all now at the Atlanta Hyatt Regency for a week-long testimonial to the retirement of Joe Lowry. This is very, very valuable information. I also had a mysterious call today for which I need to figure out where it came from a man in Colorado who says that he got information of my lecture off of the Howard University network. And he was interested in the content of my lecture, though I hadn't told but one person what tonight's content was about. I'm so glad he came right on cue. As a man from Colorado, his message was, have you left for the lecture yet? And I was on deep pins and guns. Because of course we don't stand on pins and needles, do we? We stand on pins and guns. As this call came in, and when I called the number back, it was U.S. Armed Strike United States Air Force. Gave an extension with 5 numbers in it. You know, it's like the Pentagon shit now. Who was that brother that got his ass struck dead over there when lightning struck his ass, one man in the parking lot? We need to find out what he was up to, because something about his ass was electromagnetic. The storm didn't go over long enough, but to crash his ass. Yeah, that's it. I didn't read today's paper, but did anybody see what it was that his occupation was? I know he was a sergeant major, a sergeant something. Did you hear anything about special deputy assistant to special intelligence or something? Army or Marine? I don't know. I saw him. He was in uniform. Nobody read that. Nobody want to know who got struck down. Don't nobody want to know who got struck down in the middle of the afternoon on a 5-minute storm. So nobody that interested, huh? Oh, we know that, baby. He's out of here. He's a vegetable from here on out. But the question is, who was he? Would someone please check for us? That'd be very important to know who he was. You didn't have to know that guy, did you, sister? You didn't have to know the guy that you got struck down in the Pentagon parking lot yesterday? You didn't hear about him? Black guy? If I didn't know this black guy, I seen him laying on that stretcher. Right? Yeah, showed him on the ground on stretcher. The woman's in good health. Yeah, she's out, right. Yeah. I don't know, it was right at the Pentagon. He was working in there, he was stationed there. Yeah, well, we gotta see what's up with that, because that was very powerful. But gotta pick out and grab this one brother. You know, one brother. Some of the footage that I will show you today, some of the background footage, is very powerful. It's very impressive. I'm very proud of the work that myself and the other brothers have done in terms of deciphering the code of a group of people who are standing in a group of people, but who are all dressed in code. And you're going to see the code broken. And now we're getting the deep reactions of the people who were there. And for them having been affected by these people, they're very impressed. Of course, last week, the power of last week's lecture is in the various aspects that we shared about the King assassination. And I'll review it when we start up. The week before that lecture, when I first turned on this information, I only have one copy of that tape left, and I have last week's tape for $10 and last week's video for $20. And I'm trying to make the video accessible because those things that I showed are the things you can see right off the overhead. And this is really, last week's lecture was part 3, week before was part 2, part 1 was back in Florida A&M. I can't hold on you no more, man?
I'm just getting my glasses back.
Okay, last week in Florida A&M, where at Florida A&M we did the last days of Martin King, which is a very, very important lecture. And the scheme of what we laid out in each of these lectures. In that first lecture in Florida A&M, when we laid out that the FBI was developing someone with a compelling personality. When we looked at Jesse being groomed in the dugout to replace Martin King, wait till you hear today my transcription of the New York Times article 30 days after Martin was killed. Wait till you hear the article promoting Jesse Jackson as the new emerging leader for Black America. He's 6 feet tall. He's handsome. He weighs 200 pounds. He likes fried chicken and pinto beans. Well. You're not going to believe it. You're only going to agree that our formula is sound. And now, if we take the time to fill in the blanks with the evidence, you will be thoroughly impressed with the weight of the challenge that we're putting now on the living members of the King entourage. And as I told you before, for those of you who are interested, we're going to Atlanta the 2nd week of August to make our claim to the city of Atlanta that we have the most prevalent information in the deal of, if not Ray, then who? I'm even so far as to tell you that we have picked up 2 different sets of sounds of bullet. This has really been never a question in the James Earl Ray Martin King affair because the bullets were never tested, the gun was never tested, and ballistics, the autopsy, have never been an issue. The autopsy was the source of a book by David Lifton called The Best Evidence. And his book was based on the autopsy. And he said right down the street at Walter Reed, they took Kennedy's body and shipped it to Bethesda, where they took that pencil and rammed it in his head to make that bullet hole come from the angle of Oswald's alleged shooting nest. But it was the autopsy that he used. In Martin King's autopsy, which is very vulnerable to examination, you got that picture in Pepper's book of the bullet laying in the back of Martin King. You got that bullet in 3 pieces that the FBI had. In fact, you really got 2 bullets, because the bullet that's chopped up ain't the same as the bullet that was turned over in pristine, basically pristine condition with a small thump on the head. Why do I bring that up? Because I took testimony from a white woman and a white man. When I was on the radio in LA a couple of weeks ago, talking about the Martin King assassination, among other things, a white lady called me after the show and said that we confronted Jesse Jackson as one of the shooters of Martin King. And I went, damn, you know, that's kind of far out. She was a white lady. I called her back about a week later. She said, ooh, I had given up on you calling me back. She said, I got a guy, Bill, you need to talk to. Jesse came here to have a book autographed. We stood in the line and we confronted him as a shooter. There's the question of the powder burns that are on Martin King's face and shirt. For powder burns only come from what? A close range shooting. Now when I went back through all of the videotape, Brother Donald, and with the research brothers on all, I mean, I 3-hour call today. I mean, I paid for 2 of the people. 2 more people were hooked up off of one of the person's lines to do a 4-way call. And I don't know what 3 hours worth of call is worth. But for us to go through all of this like we did, which was really a phenomenal achievement, when you figure out what we did together, all of us watch, say, ooh, that's Evans, say, ooh, that's McLean. And each of us were able to put something together so we all watched it together. That's why we got to start having working sessions. I mean, the lecture, we present certain information. People do in other cities take those videotapes and fill in the blanks, as you do. And so this is really an open working thing. And what we were able to come up with off of these tapes is really Really very fascinating. Brother Donald, we picked up with that the people who witnessed the assassination, there are two sets of sounds. Surprisingly, all the people close on Martin King said it sounded like a bomb, said Earl Caldwell of the New York Times. Reverend Kyles on the balcony with Martin King said, and then I heard, "Pow!" And then another man said, a TV reporter said it sounded like a cannon. Pow! But those were the people who were right up on Martin King. That was too loud of a sound because the shot came from medium to back range. The people who were standing medium said it sounded like a firecracker. The people who were standing back said, I didn't hear the shot, I only saw King fall down. Another lady, I called the lady back in California when I found in Pepper's book and this other book by Michael Newton, evidence of a woman who nobody took seriously, who said, I didn't see Martin go down, but I had my eyes on Jesse Jackson, who had 1 foot on the stair and 1 foot down and seemed to have something pointed at Martin King, and once Martin fell back, he put it in a tote bag.
Ooh, damn.
Then I'm going to show you the shooting scene. I'm going to show you the shooting scene. All my buddies who are in different cities don't know what Ben Branch looks like. Who is Ben Branch? Ben Branch was the man who Martin King is asking to play Precious Lord for him. He's the saxophone player standing next to Jesse Jackson as Martin leans over the balcony. Now, the problem they have with the autopsy is the way, whether Martin was leaning when he got shot or standing when he got shot, because of the way the bullet tore off into his body and ended up over in this right back shoulder blade, visible in the autopsy picture in Pepper's book, which you'll look at. One of the earlier comments Jesse made is we looked at Caldwell's, we pulled Caldwell's article, and believe me, as long as I've been talking about this shit, we just start pulling everything. The shit is worse than we ever thought. Jesse says if Martin hadn't have been leaning down, he wouldn't have got shot in the face. That was a strange comment.
Damn.
Yes. Then there's the testimony of a man who nobody took seriously, who says that he was laying on the edge of the bushes like a wino, and he heard the two men tell Martin King to lean over. Those two men are Jesse and Ben Branch. But wait till you see the video. I tell my buddies, I said, turn on that piece and watch Ben Branch duck when the camera comes. He puts his head down. But when we slowed the shit up, oh no. Damn, I left the damn thing. Shit. Yeah, oh no. This is gonna hurt, but I'll just show it to you over and over again. I need to freeze this damn thing. Oh shit. Damn, it just dawned on me. Man. Wait till you see these people duck when the camera comes, and then watch us pull the pictures of who these people are and watch them hide behind poles. This weird, well-dressed black woman who's hiding from the camera. As the SEL staff is all in the room meeting at the hospital, Jesse's the only one in the courtway giving interviews. Watch these people around and watch the theme, friendlies are not wearing ties. It's a real deep, full verification of the informants that are in the courtway who are proven to be informants are all dressed like Jesse and Ben Branch. It's just real deep stuff. It's really good stuff. And I'm very proud of this information. And it's really scary because the brothers that I'm talking to on the phone, they don't work. And I'm barely working, barely making it. And we're doing some real stupid stuff in many senses. Made me think about in the opening video, the story that we compelled, how many stories we compelled in LA during the time of Collins' assassination attempt, how many stories we compelled with the weight of the information that we were finding. And this was a Fox story following the color hole in the fence. And the weight of that was, because that was so fresh,
another man, after a speaking engagement here on the campus,
they were compelled to have to go there.
definitely bodyguards.
They were compelled to have to go to some spots that they didn't want to. I talked to Brother Colin a day or two ago, who meet me in Atlanta, to go back through his assassination again, because we're pretty sure that the formulas are sound and the players are multiply used. If they did Biggie, of course this is the college shooting.
Deliver a live report.
And what Colin has made available to me now is the superimposed shot that the police provided at his trial. And of course, you know, the key thing here was that all of the press said the man wore a white shirt and a bow tie. The Riverside police, the University police, the San Francisco Examiner, the LA Times said that the man wore a bow tie. And the LaRussi's. But now we see that ties been a code in every assassination there's been. Ties, off or on, have been a code in assassination, just like Biggie's man wore a white shirt and a bow tie.
And he just started shooting. Muhammad has
I didn't forget you. Leads right up to you.
in the past.
So, yeah, somebody else.
Before the shooting.
I don't know if they was necessarily trying to cover him up.
Muhammad was suspended from his duties as aide to Nation of Islam leader Louis Farrakhan after a widely criticized speech.
Now this is a march. It's a very important program. We're looking for best in that protest. We pulling up other film.
Los Angeles.
It's safe to say this has not been on the top or has a report.
It's another disappointment. One thing I wanted to show you on this tape is the Fox story about the question of the fence. Here we go.
On the Hill, rejoined his
Let's go back. Now the only reason Fox News was out there was because our crew was out there going through with the nation, because the nation came to investigate it. Brother Sharif called me up in my hotel, and he said, Brother Steve, I've come here to investigate the assassination attempt of Brother Khaled on behalf of Brother Minister. Brother Khaled said I should meet with you. And I said, I can't meet with you right now, but I will meet with Brother Wazir, who is the elder regional minister, former minister of LA, who is one brother that I trusted and I know loved Brother Khaled. We hosted Brother Khaled's meeting the night before at Marla Gibbs' place, where he went out that door and saw Bess outside that door where the gas was going to lead out that way. Now, this
the attempt of Muhammad's life last weekend
goes into the fence area, and the media following us out there as the nation comes to do their investigation. And you gotta sit in a way you can see this. It'd be unfortunate to sit there and not be able to see it.
Some say it is the first finger of evidence pointing to a possible conspiracy. Fox News was there exclusively as 5 men believed to be connected to the Nation of Islam returned to the scene of the shooting. One of them crawled into this hole in the bushes and appeared to be looking for something. Our camera startled him, and he ran down the hill, rejoined his group, and they all immediately left.
Government president
Police now say this tape led them to a startling discovery. Near the hole in the bushes was this, a hole in the fence.
Of course, you all have seen my brother Jamal go and do this 4 days before this day.
View of Muhammad.
Our officers were called.
And that's in the Tupac Biggie Dr. Khaled tape.
Officers have investigated that area. They are investigating that area.
This revelation will only add fuel to the speculation that some sort of conspiracy might be involved, and here is why.
No, past this story, nobody made a move but the little crew we had.
A distance of about 30 yards or so, and we've seen the entire path upon which Muhammad...
Now, he doesn't quite show the path as good as he could. Brother Jamal comes one step further, and you see this long corridor where, when he walks out of here, he's really in this long corridor that he would have faced that hole in the fence.
Follow the security plan.
Here comes the corridor.
Easily been within 5
right here. Now they're in that corridor, right there. Now that's the fence is right out. That end, when you get to the end of that spot, is that hole in the fence, looking straight down that scoop.
His plan exit, the exit that he ended up going out of, and I'm sure some other exits.
Now we have a private interview with that brother that's very powerful.
Man, James Edward Bass.
Again, y'all want to move in to see any better. Y'all all right?
He called police. 45 minutes
There he
after
is,
Muhammad
shooter in a
began
bow
speaking.
tie, shooter in a straight tie.
Unlocked
There
his
was
car.
another shooter in a bow tie.
.6 rifle was
He
in the
may have been a
front of the
patsy
vehicle.
too, but he
2 more
escaped.
handguns were found elsewhere on the campus.
Remember I told you the police locked everybody in. Only Khaled got out. They locked everybody else in the fence because the whole area was fenced in.
Muhammad, meanwhile, remained under tight security at Riverside Community Hospital. He had a bullet removed from his foot and should be released soon. The alleged gunman, James Best, also remains hospitalized. He pled not guilty to charges of attempted murder. In Riverside, I'm Bob Donnelly. Good day, LA. After 3 years.
Now that was days later. That's a very important, as a prelude to something I want to show you here. Yeah, I'm getting ready to do that, Bob. I'm coming now. Yeah, I come. I'm going to walk around and collect the donation now. We're going to hear from B, and D.
No.
B. All right, let's hear from Brother Bruce. Right. Let's hear from Brother Bruce. No, that's not no low level. That's the key stuff there. All right, I appreciate you all coming to the Georgia Cafe. I don't know why I'm in such a good mood. I be so cold, man. I don't tell y'all something. You're trying to do everything with nothing. And when people around you tell you, you ain't gonna do shit, you ain't gonna get nowhere with that bullshit, you ain't gonna do nothing with that bullshit, and then you go even deeper into this shit, you kind of get a little funny, because you never know how deep, huh? What's that, this Channel 7 news truck, huh? Did you put out a press release?
Do we need to get them?
What did you say, man? You got an account or something you did?
You want them on camera?
Man, I knew Bruce had to be here.
doing PR for me. Don't know how that the Air Force intelligence is calling me about, you know?
You want them on camera? Bobby.
Yeah. I'm sorry, what? You get electric good outside? Okay, so anybody within listening distance, we're grounded. All right? And you know, last week we had somebody hanging funny in the window, and I ain't trying to scare nobody, but the board, actually, they couldn't see good because of the board. When they got on this side, they didn't want to be there. So they went on around the corner. I think somebody went around the corner after them, and they went on down to the next street. I don't know who it was. Who was that went out? Yeah, where'd they go?
In the alley.
They went in the alley? Yeah. Oh, the alley on that side, on the Howard side.
We drove by them and we went out and called us to circle back around the back of that.
Damn. Ah, interesting. Okay. So very intriguing. But again, as I was mentioning about the brothers earlier, and even myself, we're the last people that need to be with our asses all out, trying to do what we're doing. And we just decided that, you know, we might be running out of time. And I was telling you all last week that we was moving up on the fuck 'em up strategy because reason didn't seem to be working. It didn't seem to make a difference if we proved somebody was a punk, or they were weak, or they were punk into what we thought was negative or evil power, because people tend to appreciate them just like they appreciate everyone else who sacrifices. And so we found something unique about black people, that the clarification, if you thought Malcolm X was killed by something, Louis Farrakhan, and you thought Jesse Jackson was doing something to Martin King, or Suge did something to Tupac, let them walk down the street and have everybody jump all over them and tell them how much they love them because they get to touch them or they get to see them, because the facts relevant to what they know about them didn't compel them to do shit about it. And so that means that we're going to stop reasoning with you, sister. You got to hold it down, all right? We're going to stop reasoning with you because reason doesn't work. Facts are not making a difference. We're going to make the deepest clarifications and the greatest confrontations you have ever seen. I'm telling you now, as we've told everybody around the country, when the Black Caucus shit come down, you're going to see some niggas held captive till some other niggas get through telling them what they expect from them. But you're going to see some shit like you ain't seen in a long time. It's funny, the brothers read to me today, we had pulled the Atlanta Constitution. A couple of days after Martin King had died, Nelson Rockefeller came down to Spelman to meet with Mrs. King and to give a speech on behalf of civil rights. And 20 Africans blocked up the whole meeting, saying that Rockefeller was in South Africa, that they didn't appreciate him, that they didn't want his honky ass on the campus. Who do you think he was, the great God, white father or somebody? And I mean, they jacked it up heavy. And the article went back and forth as Rockefeller said, I'll do what I please. I'll be with who I want. I'll say, and our money is all over the world. So what? And this just thing, and when the reporter caught it all, you'd have swore it was on tape. But everyone in Atlanta understood the confrontation. Only 20 people pulled it off. So I'm telling you now, as the Boule Convention head for Seattle, as the Black Caucus head for the convention center, as the black lawyers are meeting right now and wherever they're at, these people are going to find themselves deeply confronted because no longer is the, shall we say, the hesitation shuffle going to be allowed to stay in motion. You're going to be here or you're going to be there. You ain't going to be both places. You ain't going to be talking both levels of shit. You'll be compelled into one corner or another. And only when there's polarization is there change. Right. There is no change when there's not polarization. Yes, ma'am. Boule moved their convention out of California because of Proposition 209, and they moved it to Seattle, where there's a black Boule mayor there. So that's all right, but we're just trying to get the troops lined up to be in Seattle. We got to train them up from Los Angeles. So we're working hard on that now, but we're in an era of deeper confrontation. I wish I had more confidence in the financial backup we had. I wish I had more confidence in the basis of our relationships and our friendships. I wish I had more confidence in the fact that I know that most of your days are consumed with the things that you're compelled to do for family, for safety, for security, for finance. And in many of those cases, that eliminates us from the ultimate goal that has to be done, the ultimate blood that must be shed. And it may come down that it's going to end up these little knucklehead youth that are going to have to make the ultimate confrontation. But I'm telling you now, you watch as we moving now. We're in mid-July. You watch as I'm telling you, before mid-August is over, you're going to see some shit you ain't going to believe. And it's just going to be deeply intriguing as we move deeper towards that area. I'm telling the informants this. The stakes have risen. The risks you take are greater than ever before. The possibility that we're closer to catching in formula those who have really stood around us all our time and haven't found themselves the capacity to do nothing has made change. And I got something I gotta read for the record. I'm gonna read it just like I wrote it. And you can take it any way you want it. It's not personal, but it's personal to me. And it states as following: change shall prevail. I must announce change in my own inner circle. I have suffered from divided loyalties without and within my own household. This has terminated. That's all I'll say about that at the moment. Now, as we move deeper into the information and the stakes of the information increase, the fat has to be cut. So we're moving into a tighter realm. You're going to notice the difference in some things, and let's just get it on up right now. First thing I want to bring is a lead-in that comes from Fox show on Martin King's assassination, 1993, 1994. This lead-in is about as good a lead-in as I can show you for, how's the lighting about it? All right. Again, those of you who can't see, I wish it was. I ain't got the bigger TV.
It really doesn't matter with me now. It was as if something had come over him that we had never noticed.
Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place, but I'm not concerned about that now.
But he had that premonition, he had that feeling, and that's another thing that made that.
Reverend Kyle's informant for the Memphis Police Department.
The promised land.
Now, of course, I can't freeze you, so I'm in a bad job here. Really. Ain't nobody got no universal thing around, do they?
There's a kind of you know, emerging from some kind of contentment, almost
But don't the universal thing do all of this? Okay, remember our contention in Martin Luther King Part 1, which we showed good down and found with Doc's Big TV, was as Martin King walks off the podium, he turns and watches Jesse Jackson. He turns away from Jesse. And I gotta just keep showing you this is really effed up that I don't have this thing with me. I'm really hold it. No, I'm not.
My eyes have seen the glory of the
He was like this.
Martin turns away from Jesse. I want you to remember that my contention last week, I'm just going to let this visual run.
I have no doubt that Klein was the end product of the controversy.
The contention last week was, in fact, I just got to take it like this. I just got to do this for the record. The contention last week was, and again, last week's tape is very important. The contention was that Martin was running out of patience with Jesse. And that in Martin King 1, we showed that Jesse and Martin had confrontations in 5 of the last 6 staff meetings. In Martin King 3, which was last week, we theorized that they were running out of time with Jesse being plausible as a heir apparent for Martin King. And the question was, would Martin begin to front Jesse out as someone he didn't like, because already in the inner circle he was saying, I don't like this Jesse. And key last week, we looked deeply at Andy Young's observation of this last confrontation with Jesse. And I didn't bring none of that. I wasn't going to show it to you and then run back over here. I'm going to tell it to you. But remember what is in that moment is that Andy goes deeper into this longer explanation about Martin saying, Jesse, you may build a name for yourself, but you ain't going to build around me. No, Jesse, everything ain't going to be all right. As Martin makes this final testament, and Andy gives the density of the disagreement, and that we looked at everybody making note of that, only to say one point, that the plotting and putting of Jesse on Martin, starting in 63, where he's made to talk and walk like Martin, 65 when he meets Martin for the first time in Selma, 66 when he sucks him into Chicago, gets stoned in the head, 67 he takes over Operation Breadbasket, New York Times calls him emerging leader, 68 Martin's dead. But in those last weeks, his discomfort with Jesse would theorize to the intelligence community that they were running out of time in terms of Jesse being a plausible replacement. That soon, Martin said it in the public, I hate Jesse Jackson, then that would kill him forever. Now, all the things I'm going to show you they did after his death. Remember, we looked at last week, Jackie Jackson said that Martin was in a what? A media slump. That the media Martin was getting was little, if bad. And we know the FBI was sending out much of that. Post Martin's assassination, on this article that pumps Jesse as the new emerging leader, May 24th, 1968, New York Times. Write that down, May 24th, 1968, New York Times. In that article, 6 feet tall, 200 pounds, handsome, likes fried chicken and pinto beans. That story, I'm going to read you that story. But next to that story, it condemns the Poor People's Campaign as a fraud. And next to the same story, it plays Jesse up as the greatest Negro leader since Moses. They run just like this.
Line by line.
Just like that. And the 1,515 stories on Jesse Jackson post-Martin King assassination was the largest volume of media for any one black man in the history of the world. There ain't a black press in Africa that mentioned nobody's name that many times, not even a government-owned press. So we're talking about the greatest PR drive in the history of the world. Now, we understand immune from prosecution, all these other things we've talked about, the money that didn't go back, Edward Bennett Williams finding out he gonna represent Jesse on the missing push for Excel money, only to find out ain't nobody chasing him. He didn't need to work nothing out. There wasn't no problem up there with Reagan over the money. And he signed a payout agreement. We've talked about that over the years. Now, my point to this is that, as I'm telling you this one thing, in Chicago, everybody's getting ready because we go into his house with it. We're going to dog his ass down that he won't get away, but we must concur that the information is tight. And I'm pretty confident we got the goods now. We made the move. We made contact with Pepper. We've gotten all the people we need to go, because it's, well, one thing we found from Dexter that's pretty damn true is some shit that ain't on the table yet. That can't go on the table till the climate get right. And I'm proud to be a weather setter. That's why.
One thing that is specific to Jesse, it's not specific to Martin King, is that in a Time magazine article, I got this out of one of the tapes, of him coming back from the meetings in South Africa with Mandela and calling, and the National Security Advisor, Brent Scowcroft, answered his first call, and then they gave the call to some Jesse was
Jesse kept saying, I want to talk to the president. He says, you'll talk to who? Who you tell him to talk to?
The dude,
we know who he had to talk to, but he said
he wanted to talk to Bush.
Yeah,
First,
but he had to talk to Herman Cohen.
Herman Cohen.
Who was what?
Assistant Secretary for Africa.
Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs, a white man. Herman Cohen. And who's in that position now? Who? George Moose. Thank you, Bob. Thank you very much. Now,
just for behavior, that's why I threw that up.
Huh? Right, correct. Brother Don. Correct. Somebody needs to see somebody at the door. There we go. Now, this Fox lead-in goes through reenactment. And these reenactments are actors working through descriptions that people provided. I could debate an inch or two here, an inch or two there. Really, for things that aren't on videotape, it only supplies a mental note of what something may look like in reality. I draw no testament to its validity, just the fact that it just, with the music adds a climate. This is supposedly James Earl Ray. This is the woman who went to the mental institution, who wouldn't change her story that James Earl Ray was not the man she saw coming out of the rooming house after the shooting. Here we go.
Forces were at work to conspire to kill him. April 4, 1968. The FBI says a lone gunman named James Earl Ray assassinated Martin Luther King. Was that the truth, or was that...
This is Larry Fishburne as the host of this program.
Reenact the events of that day, because for many Americans, one question remains. One overwhelming question.
Okay, oh shit, I can't stop it. This is an important shot. Damn, this is awful. This is really awful. This is really awful. This shot is very important because when we talked to Hosea Williams, he said that there was a guy who's shooting pictures of Martin King with his head laying open. And I snatched his camera, I pulled the film out, and I destroyed it. So we had Hosea in front of a camera. And we showed him still shots we pieced together all the shit we could find. And I appreciate that video y'all brought on Martin King thing. Any Martin King special, I went to Blockbusters, there wasn't but one Martin King assassination tape left. They took all the rest off the market, and there are at least 10 of them. And I need to find these other ones. I need them bad. Bob, you bring that other tape. Some tape I was supposed to get, the BET tape. Think so? Okay, because I need to look at any background footage, anything that's possible. I'm just thinking one last shot that maybe I threw the thing in here before I left. But it's really sad that I won't be able to steal this, because as I rehearsed this today, I don't rehearse much shit. But today, as I went through the pauses, it'll really be hard for me to have to turn this off, but that's the fate. Yes, ma'am.
I watched a special about 6 weeks ago, an interview with Andy King, and he said that about a month prior to King dying, that Jackson and King weren't even on speakers.
That's correct.
And they came out of Andrew Jackson.
That's absolutely correct. That's right.
Turn on the TV.
I got it too.
Okay.
I got the tape. We're going to look at some of that tape. Okay, now that shot, that still shot, this shot right here is important. These are the shots that Hosea thought he tore off of the camera. That's the woman who, yeah, can't even pause this thing. That's the woman who's the other woman pointing and the people pointing across that hallway. Now, what's important about this shot is, now I've seen full sides of pictures where certain pictures have been cropped that we've seen over and over again that have been cropped. For example, Hosea Williams told us how he got blocked out of that picture. He got blocked. This is the picture before the assassination on the balcony. I need to show you this over here. James, I'll come to you because of the weird, stunned look Martin King has on his face. Very disturbed. Here you can see Hosea Williams in the actual picture. Look at the distance in space between Hosea and Jesse. Now, I can show you in different pictures where they're going up the stairway. One shot going up the stairway, another shot looking at them go up the stairway, and you'll see Jesse when Martin goes up first, and Abernathy goes up second. Jesse jumps in the line, puts his hand on the rail, and holds up everybody behind him. Lets them go up. Then he goes up, and that's how that gap got in there. The gap between Hosea Williams and Jesse Jackson. So that Jesse was in that silhouetted type of next picture, hair apparent thing that he ended up putting up at Operation Push with the silhouette of him and Martin King. But today we vouch for the space, and on film we can watch it twice happen. Now, this level of detail has not been done with the players who have been more into external disagreements over strategy of Martin King's assassination and not over intimate details. They have not wanted to deal on each other, though they have in small, non-life-threatening ways. And of course, as you look at that picture, look at the troubled face of Martin King, and look at how the others are looking at something else and smiling. But Martin is looking very troubled. I showed this picture to Dick Gregory when we were in Los Angeles, and he said that Martin had agreed to be killed, so Martin was looking at the shooter's nest. Of course, I felt that was nonsense, Bob. That was bullshit. No bullshit. But then he turns to me and he says, but you know Reverend Kyle's got that big grant after the assassination. Huh? Well, then I know his son, Dwayne Kyles, because to get his son out of Memphis, Reverend Kyle sent his son to Chicago to live with Jesse Jackson. And Dwayne Kyles used to run a sports bar and grill right across from the Chicago Defender. He still owns it, called Heroes. Anybody go to Chicago, you'll go right across from the Chicago Defender, 24th in Michigan. But I'll pass this picture around. This is a story of the youth in Chicago doing a story off of the last days of Martin King Coakley video. Now, and I'll also pass you a picture for those who want to see. I think that same picture here is in the House Assassination Committee report. And this is their final report. And what's interesting about their picture is to denote how bad they want to make sure Jesse's in the picture, they put Jesse, Martin, and Ralph on one side of the page, and Hosea is on the other side. Hold on, Bob. Let me see if I can get this together. Wait. Okay? Look at the faces of Martin King. I'll pass these around like this. I'll just let it go back. And especially in the back row, Martin looks troubled.
Right.
Very troubled.
He got this ironic look on his face.
Yeah, and the others are Jesse's smiling big time. Here, Bob, I didn't take that one to the back. You can pass this one from the front. Now,
you know you that deja vu.
okay, any pictures, still pictures, eye on the prize on Martin King. I need any of those. Any of the old civil rights demonstration stuff. We can pick the government people right out the picture based on a white trench coat that they all wear. Trench coat, ties, hats. You'll look up, you'll say, there's one, there's one. You turn to the protest, you'll see them right in the front. You turn to Lorraine, you see them on the walls. You get the formula, you'll see the people. Again, this is the Fox piece. Going into Martin King. We're going to lead right up to something.
Nowhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest our rights.
We keep saying we need another Martin Luther King. God, we don't deserve another one until we learn how to.
Remember, tonight's role is the visual side of the assassination.
As long as that truth will set you free. And no matter how much you crush it, how much you distort history, how much you propagandize, how much you lie about it, somehow in time, truth has a way
That's right.
of emerging. Cannot be contained.
That's right.
That's his crushing right there.
We just made arrangements today to go to Memphis.
I'm Larry Fishburne. Good evening. Martin Luther King was assassinated at 6 p.m. April 4, 1968.
Show you something about room 207. You're going to see everybody sneaking in there for a meeting. And a man that's an informant trying to run up to the door, and the door closes, and he has to back off.
The FBI concluded that.
Well, push ahead. Now, certain points I want to make tonight so that you understand them clearly. One is that Jesse has said that if this Ray will just drop this guy Raul, then we can get on with the business.
It was not always so. And so Dr. King, in fact, knocked those barriers down.
Walter Fauntleroy, who would later head the investigation into the assassination, worked under King in the Southern Christian Leadership Conference.
Martin Luther King Jr. was the singularly most important man.
Okay. Let me go straight to the question of Raul. Since Raul is a living person, Raul is a person who James Earl Ray says led him around the country. Just for the sake of evidence, I put before you William Pepper on Tony Brown's journal. Again, part 2 to this is missing because on the local level, Howard Station re-showed part 1 when part 2 is supposed to name the informant Copperhead. But we think we didn't got Copperhead on our own. And I'm going to tell you right now who Copperhead is. It's former Congressman Harold Ford of Tennessee. Oh, Baba, we on that deep now. We're at the point of no return. We're at the point of no return.
And Robert
This is Pepper on the existence of Raul.
Looked at it and then threw it to Raul. He looked at it and became enraged. Threw it on the floor, she said, stamped on it, and then pulled a gun. Said, I killed that black.
It's about a keychain that a lady has that Raul stamps on. It had Kennedy King on the keychain.
Incredible experience that she had. And she came forward with a great deal of fear to tell this story. A merchant seaman, of all people, an English merchant seaman from Yorkshire, called me after the trial and said, I heard them ridiculing the idea of this Raul. He said, well, I met a man called Raul in the Neptune Bar, the same place that James Earl Ray said he met him. I met him there in August of 1967, and he offered to sell me, guns. And he told this encounter. All of these statements eventually came on the road. So we have no question that of the existence of Raul. We then had to go about the business of finding him. And we have found him. We located an immigration photograph, a passport photograph, showed it on a spread of 6 photographs to all of the witnesses involved. And independently and individually, they identified the photograph as being that of Raul.
Raul, according to your book, is a Latin-accented native of Portugal.
That's right. He came to the United States from Portugal in 1960. And his
and was ran through Al Haig and the U.S. Army Intelligence Division through the Bay of Pigs and right on up to Martin King.
I can say it's an ongoing investigation. I can say we're quite certain.
Same people involved in the Kennedy assassination. Same witness in one saying, I seen them guys on that other assassination
We started a civil lawsuit
or
against
Kimball,
him and Lloyd Jowers.
who I believe Kevin Bacon played in the movie JFK, the guy who was in jail, who had evidence about something going on between Clay Shaw. Now I'm gonna tell you something else. I'm pretty sure now that the indictment of Clay Shaw in '67 by Garrison, who was moving in on Clay Shaw and the Kennedy thing, had something to do with that same group in New Orleans killing Martin King to get the government off of Clay Shaw.
What did he say?
That's a whole other theory.
I went to call about that evening, and his daughter spoke to me on the telephone, and she said they had decided that no meeting would take place.
He lives, according to the book, in a northeastern city.
Yes, that's right.
And he has a daughter. Does he have a wife?
Maybe that's not
Yes, he
does.
does.
Does he have
other children?
Yes, he does.
So it's hard for him to pull up roots and move, would it not?
Yes, I suppose one could say that, but people, if they're besieged by the media, as Lloyd Jowers was, tend to flee. And Jowers, as you may know...
Okay, we'll get to Jowers later. The only point is, you hear Pepper say, this is a visual, you hear Pepper say that we have established the existence of Raoul. Now let's go over to Jesse. What Jesse wants from this assassination clarification is if Ray would only get up off of this Raoul character. So we have some questions for Jackson. Did he investigate the possibility of Raoul's existence? Of course, this is from the fam tape where we look at the strange reaction of Jesse Jackson next to Martin King at the Mason Temple tape. And I'll just show you for the record. You actually already seen it on another tape. Brother Doc got that type of TV I need to be carrying with me and shit. That's that. Yes, sir. Now the acting normal. Kind of pats him. He looks like Judas at the Last Supper and shit. Just want to lead into this crossfire. Jackson saying where the shot came from. This is very important for the visual, for the record. Out of this footage, other people
Ray's attorney says time is of the essence because Ray is terminally ill.
This is the leading into the crossfire. That's Joe Lowry's testimonials going on now in Atlanta. That has all the old King staff people all there right now.
Was justice served or denied? Not only to try and clear Ray, but also for history's sake, should there be a trial? Just because there is new technology, does that warrant reopening the case after all these years? Bill?
Reverend Jackson, April 4, 1968.
We showed this before
where I was. I remember the trauma that shook San Francisco when we got that news. Nobody knows, I think, as well as you do, the trauma that shook this nation with the assassination of Dr. King. But after all these years, and we've had an investigation...
We looked at last week. Jesse don't like to talk about this. He started talking about it now. But all the books and everything else, he's gotten real chilled when he goes to talk about this.
Because the trial was never thorough. Matter of fact, the trial never was. I remember so well standing on the ground level talking with Dr. King.
And that's important that he does that, because I say that's the gun. He's going, yeah, that's the angle. That's that side of that face he's catching.
Remember Brother Kyle's about 10 feet to the left.
He always speaks for Kyle's. Kyle's always speaks for him.
And knocked against the wall and fell. And the young others of us began dashing toward the balcony. You see this picture of us pointing?
Mm-hmm.
Because the police guards were coming toward us drawn. We were saying,
right,
go toward where the bullet came from.
I'll show you the wide angle of that. You'll see that.
And yet those of us who were in...
Jesse says, go where what? The bullet. Go where the bullet came from. He's not a ballistics man. He got no evidence. He wasn't even up there. He couldn't even see it.
Toward where the bullet came from. The bullet didn't come from that way.
Right.
And yet those of us who were involved at that level, we were...
How does he know where the bullet came from?
Involved at that level.
mysterious.
Right. And remember, it is only that pointing that way. I would then go to the visual over here where he showed the black man last week. We showed the black man. What was he doing? What was the black man we saw with the rifle last week standing in the doorway? What was he doing? He was doing what?
Watching over.
He was watching over what? The bundle, right. The bundle with the evidence incriminating James Earl Ray. That's what we got this on overhead, which is on that video from last week, which is just $20. The black guy standing in front of the bundle. What we've now found out is another picture of the same black guy standing in front of the bundle, but the superimposed in the background is a different street. That they thought the getaway would have gone in another area, so the government chopped the picture and put the same black guy on a different street. And when Pepper interviewed him, he said, Pepper, the picture you're showing me, which is the real picture, is not the picture that the Justice Department brought to me to identify as myself. It was me in the picture, but I was on the wrong street. And Pepper got access to the two various pictures.
Steve.
Yes.
On the shooting, supposedly on the balcony ceiling, this skin, King's skin was on the balcony ceiling.
Which is up trajectory. Right. Correct. Straight up. Right, that one person pointing down. Well, we're going to deal with all of them when it gets the boom, bang, firecracker, or I didn't hear anything, but I saw everything. You got it now charted where all these people are standing.
The day Dr. King just arrived in Memphis, in room 306 of Rain Hotel. That always struck me as funny that they would announce on the television it was in room 306, which was the room facing the bullet actually came from.
Do you believe to this day that James Earl Ray killed Martin Luther King?
I'm convinced James Earl Ray was in the middle of the killing. He either had the motive, the money, or the mobility to have done it alone. My interest is not in declaring James Earl Ray to be innocent, but rather to find out just how massive was the conspiracy.
Do you think this trial will ever answer all of those questions, or is this trial just going to leave us with more questions than we have now?
You know, there are those who try to convince Marilla Evans to give up on pursuing the kill of Medgar Evers, and so she did it, and she was successful. Put it this way, if the trial is open, a real full trial, we may not know. We'll have the satisfaction of having tried. If we do not pursue the trial, we will never know. Absolutely, never know.
Congressman Stokes, you chaired a congressional investigation committee that looked at the question of the assassination of Martin King.
Now, what's so key about Stokes, who fucked up the House assassination, is that who have they suggested to chair the CIA investigation done by blacks? Stokes. They've asked him to come back to chair the CIA drug investigation into the Contra cocaine connection. Right.
Okay. Her due, so to speak, by allowing this trial to go forward and
I'll show you Stokes on Raul
that has been alluded to by
as we get Jesse on Raul
in a trial.
Well, firstly, I don't have any authority at all in that respect. What I did was to chair a congressional committee which made a 2-year investigation, and I thought a very thorough, comprehensive investigation.
Only problem was, he said that in view of all of the evidence, the FBI, the CIA, the U.S. Army were in no way involved in the assassination of Martin King. That's what his committee, the deepest conclusion that they made, even having their own files rifled by the CIA while they were doing the investigation, they caught the boy going in the safe. In spite of all of that, his conclusion was that no government agency had no role in any part of Martin King's assassination. That's probably about as deep of a spot you can go to as anywhere. And what we really got to do is, we got to take it to Walter Fauntroy. He's got to come in here, and we've got to talk to Walter Fauntroy. He is the local key. Him being set down and shut up is very important in all of this, because everybody says he took some of the files all out of the house safe and has them in his own possession. And somewhere in those files is the key to what we need. Everybody's depending on some shit that he stole. We need this shit.
President Kennedy spent a great deal of time ascertaining that he did, in fact, know what he was doing, he'd been counseled properly, things of the sort. As I understand it now, the contention of James Earl Ray, whose attorney, Mr. Pepper, is that the ballistic evidence or forensic firearm evidence will free him and prove that he did not fire the rifle. I don't have any problem with additional investigation utilizing the latest scientific technology relative to markings and matchings of the rifle and the bullet. What I think would be a waste of time is to let a lot of witnesses who over the years have come forward claiming other things. That when we
one thing you don't want is the witness. The only problem with most of the witnesses were that they were never talked to.
I think that would create
not
real problems.
gave bad stories, gave no story at all. Is what most of the real witnesses of conspiracy want to say.
Investigate where the money for his travel came from and all the suggested connections to other groups.
We did all of that, I think, very thoroughly. We proved
he keeps
firstly
cleaning up for this
James
thing.
Earl Ray stalked Dr. King.
Those two pictures moving around.
Los Angeles.
Those pictures moving around.
Atlanta.
All right, let's push it back. Moving around. Make sure everybody see him.
And then to
Who
Memphis.
didn't get to see him? They get over here.
9 months
Sit him this way,
prior to
Ron. Let me get
assassination,
through.
he
Sit
used
it that
the
way.
name Eric S. Galt. He bought the rifle in Birmingham under the name of Harvey
Now, they're
Lomax.
using him buying the rifle as part of his evidence, but he bought the rifle, took it back, and got another one. Because Raul said he had the wrong rifle, so he made him go get a 30-06. Room 306. On the balcony at 3 minutes to 6.
And the rifle, the beer can, the newspaper,
And that's what's wrapped up in the bundle.
Were all found in a bundle 2 doors away from the rooming house.
Now, what's important is where our reach is the strongest is on the blacks.
A white male was seen running with a bundle on his arm, and then they found that now his fingerprints were over all of these items that were found in front of
None of the dubious things about any of those things.
This is why I'm convinced that James Earl Ray was involved, but not alone, because somebody financed him. Somebody got
Which means he's alluding to a position for Raul, who did finance him.
Conspiratorial promises or offers around the country. I sent investigators all around the country.
It's very important, too.
We finally settled on one in St. Louis, Missouri, where a white businessman and a white lawyer had offered $50,000 to an FBI informant. The informant gave the information to the FBI agent to whom he informs. The FBI agent filed the information, but he misfiled the file. So by the time it worked, well, he filed the information in the informant's file, but he misfiled the file in the FBI records. When our investigation was conducted, we found that misfiled file. But by then, both the businessman and the attorney were deceased. So
that's how they made it a St. Louis conspiracy, because the people were dead already. So he settles on that the people who really did this were out of St. Louis.
I went to Brushy Mountain, Tennessee to visit James Earl Ray. I left absolutely convinced that James Earl Ray is the center of this, perhaps the one whose thing was on
And we allege that Jesse went to Bushy Mountain only because he wanted to know if Ray knew his name.
More than James Earl Ray.
My understanding is, Congressman can correct us if we're wrong, that this trial, which James Earl Ray is asking, can only consider his innocence. It can't consider the guilt or alleged guilt of anybody else.
The only possible way out is that if he would finally get past the shallow figure Raul and tell us something that we...
Why doesn't he produce But answer, just so that people understand the perspective from which you're coming. Therefore, from what you said, do I understand that you...
Okay, now, so Jesse says if he would only get past Raul, now the question to Mr. Jackson is, has he ever investigated the existence of Raul? Is he familiar with the fact that Raul has been located, has even been interviewed? Jowers, who worked with Raul, has asked for immunity and brought in 5 other people that was with him. The only one who's on the edge is Raul, but Jesse is covering for the existence of no Raul, not even whether he was or wasn't involved, but he's stuck on that he doesn't exist. But he's got no investigative arm, he's done no investigation, and he's So we needed to reference to him. Question was, in specific reference, Jackson, are you familiar with information provided by William Pepper regarding Raoul? Have you yourself investigated him? If you rely on the House Assassination Committee report, are you implying what level of accuracy to their activity? Is this a special trust in Stokes? One thing I mentioned about that, there's a person that Pepper interviews who was 6 years old at the time of the assassination, and his name was Chuck. And Chuck says that his daddy had a meeting with Martin King, and Chuck sat in the car. And Chuck describes what he saw related to the assassination. When Chuck was older and he was being interviewed by the House Assassination Committee, Chuck said that he couldn't get in the Masonic Temple. In fact, I just need to read you this section because it's very powerful about what we know about oath takers. And Chuck said, all of a sudden, let's see, was it 403?
Talking about attorneys also, brother?
Huh?
Talking about attorneys also, he said oath takers?
Yeah, about comedians too. Chuck had the impression that their concern was centered around secrets other than King's assassination that he might have heard when he was around his father. This is his friends. They also invited him to join the local Masonic lodge where previously he had been excluded from membership. His brother pressed him to join. As a brother in the lodge, he would be bound to secrecy. They had a man who had a story he wanted to tell, so they took him in the lodge and sealed him forever. And Pepper says, I don't know what to do with his story. I'll leave it alone. And Pepper just sets his story in the book, but says, I didn't check up on none of this. I just let it go at that. Okay. Yes, over a series of time. Anybody got the trial of James Earl Ray on film? That's a very important thing for some of the evidence that comes out. Now, they go to a commercial. When they come back, because the announcer cuts them off, they come back, Stokes starts off on Raoul about how Ray gives 4 descriptions of Raoul, and Raoul is a figure of his imagination. First they do the 1-minute interview with William Pepper.
He coerced guilty plea on March 10th, 1969.
Said, Pepper, why do you want your man found innocent when he pleaded guilty?
March 13th, 1969. And he was coerced enormously at the last minute by both counsel.
You have all this new evidence. Why don't you put it forward now? Why do you need a new trial?
The only way evidence can be validated under this system effectively is in a court of law. I did put forth most of this evidence in a book called Orders to Kill. That's
Thanks, Mr.
Shit, let's give it a He knows the code. Jason. Let's go on.
Thank you very much for joining us for a very short period of time.
We'll speed up to the
Congressman Stokes, who did chair that congressional...
See what happened here? Remember we looked at this before. All of a sudden, in the middle of Pepper's interview, it was on 30 seconds.
Let's go back to Congressman Stokes.
So they said they had satellite trouble. They come back in the end and say we had satellite trouble with Pepper, but then watch it come back on after they take him off.
I did put forth most of this evidence in a book called Orders to Kill.
Thanks, Mr. Pepper. I'm sorry we're out of time. Thank you very much for joining us.
Congressman Stokes, who did chair that...
See, the camera stays on him, meaning that the satellite breakup didn't break up. They broke away.
Is this Raoul figure? Your investigation...
Raoul.
Why is that not a good reason to have a new trial? The fact that there's someone like that might fall in
For 3 days, when James Earl Ray appeared before our committee in nationally televised hearings, I questioned him about Raoul. He gave me 4 different descriptions of Raoul. In addition to it, he talked about numerous places where he and Raoul met. He was never able to give us anyone who ever saw him and Raoul together.
Which is absolutely false, because all in Pepper's book are all of the people, Randy Rosen, there's a whole series of people, Lamberto, all of them admitted. Lamberto, who's the man who sends Jowers the money for the assassination, says he met with Raoul. The Merchant Marine man, you heard Pepper say earlier, who the Merchant Marine say he met with Raoul. For Stokes to say he don't know anybody who met with Raoul or knew and saw Ray with Raoul, is all the way down to the lady that served the hamburgers in the restaurant. The day of the shoot saw Raul. The lady who saw him leave the rooming house saw Raul. But the point is now, the only reason this is in here, and I'm taking up too much time with this, is that we're going to go for these niggas on this point.
Yeah.
Because Raul, there's more definitive evidence on Raul waiting in the dugout for the Raul confrontation to be set. But Pepper can't get past Jesse. Pepper can't get past Stokes. The family can't get past Jesse because they're still refuting even the existence of Raul. With deeper, confronted evidence, they will then admit his existence, but then claim not involved. That'll be the next stage of how we block them and lock them in. Okay.
His imagination or Raul?
Okay, there we go. That's for the record. Stokes, Boulay, Stokes.
Figment of his imagination or Raul was somebody else who he did not want to identify.
Jesse, I want to ask you about
I just needed that one more statement to hear him say again.
He did not want to identify.
Anyone who ever saw him and Raul together, Raul was a figment of his imagination or Raul was somebody else who he did not want to identify.
Jesse, I want to ask you about the...
Okay, hold that back. All right, the Raul question. Now, let's move a little closer on the exact evidence of the assassination, the boom, the bangs, and these strange people that we find standing around during some of these shots that give us a good key on who some of these people are. Let's go to Turning Point, which came on. Hold it down. Missing one video. Oh, it's in here. Right. Let's see. Maybe we'll go to that one next. Turning Point, which came on a couple of weeks ago on ABC. And in that Turning Point are various people talking and stuff. Now this is footage of the coming into Memphis.
Jr. arrived in Memphis, Tennessee, and spoke that night at the Masonic Temple.
We've got some difficulties in here. But it really doesn't matter with me now. Because I've been to the mountaintop.
We were crying. We didn't even know we were crying. I was crying, preachers were crying, people in the audience were crying.
Memphis minister Billy Kiles remembers a sermon eerie with premonitions.
And he's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over. And I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you.
On the day
Here we go. Watch
his
this.
aides
Watch
gathered
this.
at the Lorraine Motel.
Okay. What you're watching there, that little move up the stairway? No. Where's that other shot at? On the front line. You're watching seconds before this picture. What you're seeing coming up that stairway is seconds is them coming in. Now let's go back. Watch Jesse on the side and then step in.
King on the front, right?
King's in the front.
The promised
Watch Jesse even look to the side, almost a little jumpy, as he gets up on the balcony. There we go. Now here's Jesse here.
His death, King and his aides gathered at the Lorraine Motel.
And they go up.
Dozens of Memphis police officers patrolled.
Now I got another shot of them further up the balcony, coming up a different angle as they get in the corner of that stairway.
Tight surveillance.
They show the hotel radio like it, the bug was in the radio.
Seemed at ease.
I see Dr. King come from the restaurant, which was down a little alley.
Former New York Times reporter Earl Caldwell was also staying at the motel.
Walks up on the balcony, crosses the balcony, goes to his room. By himself. He didn't have security with him. Nobody.
Notice somebody peeping out the curtain.
It's right there.
That same day, a man using an alias checked into a small rooming house directly across from the
We'll get to
motel.
Ray another day. Ray gonna have to defend his own ass. This ain't about Ray. It's about
Jack.
And I was very embarrassed to find that it wasn't a rifle shot. It was a Coca-Cola bottle that the housekeeper had dropped off her tray and it had broken on that concrete walkway outside my door.
A lot of people seen
It was
Yay. Yes.
one of those cool spring evenings. Just arrived to pick up Dr. King for dinner.
They seen
Billy Conn.
Yay. Talk a certain way.
6 p.m. Down by the car, Andrew Young, Jesse Jackson, an aide named James Orange, and Dr. King's driver were
Is that
waiting.
picture cropped again?
James
Same
Orange
picture.
and I were behind the
Look
lemonade,
at Mark's face.
shadowboxing, and sort of clowning, and just having a good time and feeling good.
I said, guys, let's go.
This is one line nigga right there.
5, 6, 7.
Thank
Last
God.
words, do I really need a coat? And then the shot rang out.
Pow-yow. This explosion, which I took to be a bomb, I thought, Jesus, someone bombed a motel. I looked back. Martin was lying on the balcony. I think one of his shoes...
Oh, stop. You see, this is the shot that comes before the pointing shot. The key thing is, this is the camera that Hosea thought he took. Watch this lady right here, okay? That's something else. And let me go back. Let me take the picture back a little bit. Boy, Bruce, this just couldn't make it without us. Let's see. Huh? Yeah, I'm stupid, maybe.
And then the shot rang out.
Pow-yow. This explosion, which I took to be a bomb, I thought, Jesus, someone bombed a motel. I looked back.
That's how he got courage, though.
Was lying on the balcony.
Okay, now, the shot here, this is the woman who's pointing in the picture. Pepper was unable to find her. That's Mary Terrell or Turnell or something. And please, I'm sorry, y'all need to come in here, man. Don't miss this shit. They're looking on the edge, because y'all especially need to see it, because, yeah, come on down. Here's some chairs in here. You can bring one and there's one in there. Just take that spot. Y'all too valuable to see on the side. Scoot over just a little bit, Sky. Let them slide one more chair in there. I gotta put my chair back up this bed. There we go. Now, see who this is here? Who's that? That's Jesse Jackson. Why, when Jesse was down here by this stairway, why did he run up this stairway? The photographer, who Hosea thought he tore up his picture, comes in from that angle. Because all those shots you'll see of King as he gets closer is King from that angle, from this angle. The photographer is coming right over Jesse's shoulder. This is the maid. Now, what had Jesse got through doing? We went through this last week. Remember, at 5:45, this maid right here goes to room 315 and 316 and tells the gang members, the invaders, that SCLC is not going to pay their hotel bill and they've got to leave the hotel. And in 5 minutes, by 5:50, they had packed up their stuff, and some of them walked out the hotel compound. The other group drove out, but by 5:50, only 5 minutes later, they were out of there. When they asked the maid who it was that told them they had to leave the rooms, what did she say? And that meant that Jesse at 5:45 telling the maid to get her to do something to clean out that whole back side of the, because remember, they're in the rooms on this side of the wall. Except for, which is the one invader that didn't get called away? McCullough. And who is McCullough? And I got this on overhead. It's on that video real good. Shot came out real good. And just for the sake of showing you here, this is McCullough, the one leaned over. He's the CIA man. He eventually worked for CIA. He's the Memphis intelligence man, standing over Martin King's body like Gene Roberts stood over Malcolm X's. Who is Gene Roberts?
New York.
Right. Both men were local people who got promoted to national intelligence after their missions were completed. Now, of course, and remember, Pepper makes a point of saying that McCullough is the only person in the picture without a tie on. As he says, friendlies don't wear ties. As Tactical Director Samuel Evans tells the military men in the briefing, friendlies will not be wearing ties. Now, we looked at last week pictures of Jesse Jackson wearing a tie with Martin King, so you just didn't think Jesse didn't never wear no tie being with Martin King. And that's Jesse and Martin right there, and Jesse at the city council in Chicago with the turtleneck on with the so-called Blood of Martin King shirt. But Jesse had on a turtleneck and Ben Branch had on a turtleneck, and the key to that was that the argument was over Jesse not wearing a tie. This is Sam Evans, the tactical man who gave the briefing, but I'm going to show you Sam Evans walking down the stairs, and his informants are right there in front of him, and he turns his head so he doesn't have to look at them, and they hide behind the pole so the camera doesn't pick them up. This shit gonna knock you out. But the key thing to this picture is, what do you know about the picture? When Pepper says the only one in the picture who wasn't wearing a tie, what do you know about that real picture now? They cropped out Jesse. There you go, Brother Charles. Because the real picture would have put him in it, but the picture that went everywhere took him out of it. See what happened? He would have been right here. See what I'm saying? From what's up there to what's here, what's out of the picture. And again, to do this right, I should have an overhead next door, and I should I should do it that way, and I had it that way. It's on that tape. I just couldn't go there this week. It's just too much work, too much carrying and stuff. Yes, yes. Let me use this book 1 second. I'll pass these shots out. That's from the book Jesse. Now, Bruce, let's give Bruce a hand again. Yeah. Bruce. Okay.
I'm looking at reactions.
One of his shoes that come off, put them on the railing.
Yeah, I'll take
there was
it.
a crushed cigarette in his hand. His pulse was still.
Now, you heard. Now let me tell you about this. You in the X-Files depiction of the assassination. Who was the man did the shooting?
Cigarette man.
Oh, the
Cigarette man. Now let me tell you something that we got on tape about, and Hosea made a point of saying to us today, that once Martin King's body is gone and the blood is laying there, somebody took a balled up package of cigarettes and threw it in the blood. And there's a picture of cigarette, this balled up package of cigarettes. Now, Kyles talks about taking Martin King's cigarette out of his hand because Martin didn't smoke in the public, and he takes it away. But someone came behind all of that and threw this package of cigarettes into the blood. And everybody comes down and shoots the picture of, it made me think about my man Hollis on the phone as we talking across country today, Cigarette Man. And then it was odd, last week, we left the lecture on Tuesday, went right back to New York Undercover, and there they redid the Martin King one, where they threw out Operation Garden Plot. They threw in Yoruba's daddy as one of the shooters, but the key thing was, and this was the point I was making in Atlanta, where I got this argument with the brother, because he saw me make a point of, this is exactly when we got an argument, maybe to the other side of Coakley, is I say, but did you notice the daddy, the oath taker, sides with his son,
That's right.
and breaks his bond to the government and says, I'll clean this shit up, son, get on out of here.
That's right.
And as soon as I made that point to the point in the audience, the brother hollers out, why ain't Farrakhan down here speaking? I mean, Kobe, why are all them oath takers around you? And what I had done was I was making a vein for an oath taker to walk in on repudiating his oath, and the boy came behind me and tried to close it back up. And that made me do the other side of Coakley. That broke up the lecture the one night and led me into the next one to make me then do this whole spiel on, I don't think you know me that well. And that's what resulted in that way. But just to fill all of that in.
The tie that I had picked out had been severed and the knot was upside down.
Now, we got this earlier piece of 93 when Kyle said he was in the room for an hour. Now, of course, we looked at last week that Abernathy and Hosea Williams said Kyles is a liar, saying he was in that room. It was executive staff only. We broke out of the meeting, went to our rooms. Martin starts to get dressed. Ralph says Kyles never came in the room. But Kyle's story has now been reduced, that all he did was make sure one thing, that Martin had his tie on. And Kyle says Martin's tie was missing. And I thought it was a prank pulled by one of the staff, but do you understand that Martin couldn't have found that tie? He would have been alive. But Kyle's made sure he had it. Woo!
Shut.
Sound effect, man.
Audio and visually on the tape.
All right, here we go.
There was a gaping hole in his face. And all this seemed impossible. It just didn't seem, I mean, it was a dream.
An ambulance rushed Dr. King to St. Joseph's
Oh, here we go. Here, oh, look here. Ooh. Now, this is what I want you to look for when we look at Skid and Key now. Notice there are no other SCLC staff in this whole area. You'll see no Hosea. You'll see no Ralph. You'll see no Andy. You'll see nobody but Kyle's and some weird-looking guy down here. He looked like he looked like he was with Kyle's. But you're gonna see. You're gonna see. See, y'all think I'm good? And I'm telling you, half the secrets in the world are tied on teddy bears. All right, let's give Bruce another hand. All right. Now, I'm telling you now, I'm gonna start picking these people off the walls on another shot, and you're gonna be surprised what we pick up. One shot of Jesse, the one out here talking. Okay, here we are again. Here's Ben Branch. This is the man that, see, all my buddies are looking at this today, and they don't know who he is. I said, now, later on, you all, when we got this far, I said, now, later on, I'm going to show you all Ben Branch hide his head. But we thought that was the picture, but when we looked at it carefully, here Ben Branch is hiding his head, but 5 other people are hiding too. This is the saxophone player who Martin King asked to pray bless his Lord for him. He's in the band Operation Breadbasket. Okay? Notice everybody's gone. No other staff people. All these other people are people who are around.
Who's that guy? He ain't wearing a tie either.
I was in my bedroom and the phone rang, and the first call I got was from Jesse Jackson. He says,
okay. Now again, here's the same 3 together.
Who's that guy? He ain't wearing a tie.
Hear about what we got in the room full of Social Security numbers that we got.
I came in the room and she had turned on the television set, and I heard the announcement. And I remember I went in my room and I prayed and I said, please don't let my daddy die.
The sniper's bullet cut down Dr. King as he...
Very shortly, Andy Young called. He either said he's not dead or he's still living. Well, I knew then when he said it like that.
We're going to go to Memphis now. Martin Luther King Jr.
Watch this now. Watch that guy there? Okay, watch this. Watch this. Watch this. This is room 207. Here we go. Boom. Can't get in the moon. Who is that? That's McCullum. He tries to go in this room behind the staff people who go in here. He goes in there and can't get in, has to turn away.
ABC.
Now, the key we think is in the footage that means nothing to nobody.
Right. Martin Luther King Jr. was
That's Evans, the guy I showed you in the picture here. Watch this. That's orange right there.
Police came in and conducted a very quick investigation. ABC reporter Tom Sharp was in Memphis.
He got a cigarette too.
Shot apparently came from an apartment.
That's Evans. That's the guy, Evans, who said friendlies will be in ties.
Near the rooming house.
Won't be in ties.
The theory of what had happened was already getting out. The police here in Memphis immediately issued a bulletin for a young white man dressed in dark clothes who dashed out of that building across the street. He dropped a rifle, which was fitted with a scope on the sidewalk, and then he fled. The official story about a lone assassin quickly emerged, and as Memphis police swarmed the crime scene that night, the FBI launched the largest manhunt in Bureau history. But some claim the investigation was far from thorough.
Nobody did that most basic thing, which is go to the door at the crime scene and where were you standing, what did you say? The official story says that those of us who were there, that we didn't see what we saw.
When we come back, a surprising account from eyewitness.
Okay, now watch this. Watch this. Here we go. This we got last night, and I looked at it about 1 this morning. I looked at this shit. I went to bed. I called my buddies this morning and said, man, we got the key up. Let's talk. Everybody pulled out all that stuff. We all got the same stuff. And we started going back and looking at faces.
Was Georgia.
Watch this. This is Kyle's 1993 special with Martin King.
Good move.
Assassination of Martin King.
He said, now, we're going to dinner.
He said,
now, Ralph said, I know your wife didn't cook her.
You got the other one?
Then
Oh, because I've been trying to get that up.
Martin said, well,
watch this.
It was just that kind of banter between preachers. He said, tell me, what do you think it was, Billy, that galvanized this community behind the sanitation workers? He said, man, this is a movement. This is really a movement. Then finally, about 5:45, on the porch, on the balcony, and there were some people out there, and he greeted them, and Jesse was...
Let me just do this for the record so that you can hear. This is in '93, before Cowles has been confronted publicly that he only knocked on the room 10 minutes before the death of Martin King. He tried to establish that he was in the room an hour before, and watch him lead in
the revival. Martin said, why don't you get...
Now watch the lead-in that he gives. This is in '93, before he's ever been confronted. Now his story is down to just a tie, what you saw on Turning Point. Okay, there's John Judge is in this one.
Yeah, it's the same one.
Story.
Okay, now watch this, watch this. This is key, just for the record.
In terms of Ray being the assassin or being in the rooming house, he is like Oswald and other paths he set up.
So what happened the last hour of King's life? It's like 3 news people.
What happened the last hour of King's life? As if he was there for an hour. Now, he doesn't make the move to knock on the door until Jesse's effectively got the invaders off of that 3rd floor ramp. And since Jesse ran up that stairway to make sure that no one got between him and the people on the balcony, in that he ran up behind the maid who was taking the sheets out. You see her basket up there. She's standing next to her basket where she put the sheets and stuff of the invaders in the basket, come rolling her cart down like the maids do at the hotel. And Jesse comes up behind her. The photographer comes up behind him. No one else goes up that stairway the rest of the night. That stairway gets closed and they only use the one on the other side. But this is '93 and Cowles is doing, what's the last hour of Martin King's life like? Like 3 preachers getting together talking.
So when waiting to go to dinner, you talk about new stuff. It was 3 preachers in the room talking about preacher stuff.
Yeah,
talking about revival. I had to preach revival.
Oh, another thing I needed to mention for the record, that Martin King was shown pictures from the FBI, him laying butt naked in a tub with Bernard Rustin in the bathroom with him. And another picture of Martin King naked on the bed with Bernard Rustin sitting in a chair talking to him. The reason made me bring up those 2 pictures, that the Fed showed those pictures to King. The point of those pictures was that Rustin was a known homosexual. Right. The insinuation was that Martin was a homosexual, right? And Rustin's comment, which is in Pepper's book, is one of his books, is that, my God, the insinuation was that we were doing something, but we did absolutely nothing. That was the only time I could talk to Martin, therefore I did. Just got to put that in the record.
Abernathy needed somebody to preach revival. Martin said, why don't you get Kyle to do it? He said, yeah, Kyle, what you doing? I said, I got to go to Columbus, Georgia for Fred Lofton, who pastors here now. He said, Martin said, man, anybody with good sense would rather spend a week in Atlanta than go to Columbus, Georgia. He said, but who said you had good sense? You know, in a good mood. Good mood. He said, now, we're going to your house for dinner. I said, yeah. He said, now, Ralph said, I know your wife didn't cook because she's too pretty. Then somebody said, Martin said, well, it was just that kind of banter between preachers. He said, tell me, what do you think it was, Billy, that galvanized this community behind the sanitation workers? He said, man, this is a movement. This is really a movement. Then finally, about 5:45, on the porch, on the balcony, and there were some people out there, and he greeted them, and Jesse was down there, he greeted him, and somebody said, go back. Ralph was in the room putting on cologne. He said, there's going to be some pretty ladies there, so I'm going to smell good. Martin, somebody hollered up and said, Martin, it's going to be chilly, bring your coat. So he told Ralph, get my coat. Martin stood here and I stood here. He leaned over the balcony, was talking to Jesse at the very moment of the impact. I said, okay guys, let's go. I got about right here. Pow! I didn't realize there was a shot until I looked over the railing and people were ducking. One shot. I looked back and Martin was
one shot.
Wounded.
I'm sure now there were more than one. That's that lady, the maid. find. She's been unable to be found today. Now watch this. This is deep, y'all. This is deep. Here we go. Oh, right there. This man right here is, and it's funny.
Damn, that's Jesse right there.
Yeah, that's Jesse again. This is the point where I want to show my friend where Ben Branch ducks. You don't want to miss this, bro. Come on, man. You don't want to miss this part, man. You don't want to miss this part.
Don't want to miss it.
Okay, now watch this. The man in the gold top braided helmet is TAC Commander Evans right here. Watch Ben Branch hide his head. Watch Ben Branch duck. That's Ben Branch there.
Let's go back. Watch this.
Hold it. Watch this now. Watch this now. Hold it now. Watch now. Now, here comes Evans down the stairs. The lieutenant under Evans is a man named Arkins. Stop. This is the main man. This is his assistant. Watch him giggle as he comes down. Jesse's talking to, again, it's no staff in the area. Jesse's got on no tie. Ben Branch is here, turtleneck, no tie. Watch these two people in the background. No tie. No tie. Watch it.
Person shot King. They ran.
Huh? Oh, it's getting deep, Baba. Well, watch it. We show who it is. Watch this. Because you got to take the pictures. I mean, we just did this today. Just little stupid stuff on our own.
Well, I kept my coat.
Now watch this. So I said, well, who's the man in the helmet? I said, man, pull up Evans' book. He got a face look like Evans.
At the very moment.
That's this guy right here.
Of the impact.
I stood. I said, okay, guys, let's go. Memphis,
I got about right
Police
here.
Department Inspector.
I didn't realize it was a shot.
Evans is the one that says friendlies will not be wearing ties.
One shot. I look back, and Martin was mortally wounded.
Of course, Andy has rescinded that he thought the bullet came in that direction. Now, this man, we're working hard our ass on who this man is. He's there in the courtway. He's got a wide open collar. He's listening very clearly to what Jesse is saying, and he's not a reporter.
Okay.
Ben Branch ducks his head. This is the saxophone player. Watch this man in the background right here. And look at the lady ducking. Look at the man. Now watch. But now, this right here, I'm going to tell you who this guy is. And the man says, Steve, you know what? Turn one page before that, and you're going to see that that man is this man. That's Lieutenant Arkins, the #1 informant, the lieutenant under Sam Evans. When Evans comes down and sees him, Evans turns his head away from him. And Arkin tries to duck behind the pole. We're now trying to pick up who she is. Look at Arkin hide behind the pole. Let's go back.
They ran all the way down, Steve.
Huh?
She had her head all the way down.
Oh,
Right there.
Now, that's this man. And you're going to get a better shot of him in a second.
Yep.
The dude steps in front.
There he is, right there. Same guy. And the caption says, Lieutenant Eli Arkin, 1968, Senior Memphis Police Department Intelligence Officer. He's standing on the wall. Right? But who's his boss? Evans. Who then cued everybody as to who's who on the set. But notice how he tries to use the pole to hide. Is he hiding from Evans? Or is Evans incensed that he's still standing there, but he's kind of like telling Evans, I got to listen to what he's saying.
But there's a guy that steps in front of him, though.
Right, the black guy steps in front of the lady to disguise her from the camera. He thinks, watch it. said slow motion?
No, you gotta hit the part
okay.
real quick like you've been doing. Hit it twice.
Okay. See him step in front of her?
The shot king. They ran through.
I got you. I go back.
Hit it twice in the movie.
I got
3 or 4 frames.
I got you.
Real quick.
Okay. Okay. Now I want you to pick up Evans' look at them, because you must notice that Evans sees them. Watch. Oh, he saw him and he turns back away from him.
He looked when he came
First that shot.
Huh?
He looked when he turned from when he hit the bottom of the step.
Right, right. He gets there, he sees him.
There you go.
Okay.
Right there. Boom. There it is.
He looks at him, right? Looks right at him. And so now he's headed towards them. And then he does a big dip.
Yeah.
And comes direct left, right in the back of this black guy. He doesn't stop this. He doesn't stop this. Turns away from him. Look at her. Look at her. Turn her head. He does the pole. Watch.
Two.
Damn.
First that shot king.
Damn.
Ran through the clubhouse and looked the whole snack.
What happened now?
He stepped from behind the pole once he passed.
Right, right.
So they was hiding from him.
No, they couldn't have been hiding. They were hiding from the camera, from the media, hooking all in together. Okay, okay. Wait, show. Oh, that's all right. Okay, no, that's all right. I don't need slow. I'm all right. I'm all right, really. This is okay. We're trying to pick up. We showed this to Hosea Williams today, and so now they're taking this to the hotel tonight to get all the guys around to see if they can start calling names. He said, man, we ain't never been asked to do this before. This is fun.
And the other guy,
look at this guy smiling his ass off.
And the other guy,
what's he smiling at? He said, Captain.
he saw the same.
Right, you see our men standing on the wall?
And the other guy,
and this is the black guy who then steps in front of her.
Right, he steps out.
No, yeah.
Like you
Go back.
right in front of him. He steps out, right?
As if the cap said, get in front of them. Will you block them from the camera? Huh? This black guy has a tie on. The black guy has a tie on.
He fits the profile of an 8.
Yeah. Again, now remember, this is a closed off area. Can't nobody get in or out.
Now who was Jesse talking to?
Some white media person it looked like. Notice you see no black media people.
That's true.
But yet, Jesse said,
If he was so involved in this whole thing, how did he still manage to get out of it?
Who was so involved?
Jesse Jackson.
That's the whole thing about Y.T. Walker saying if Jesse ever messed with you, just question him on how he got out of Memphis that day. And so we asked Hosea. We asked Hosea. Question was, I wrote out the questions. Was good attorneyship. Mr. Williams, are you aware of the airport, trains, boats, planes all being closed off? He said, yes, everything was closed down, shut down. Are you aware of how Jesse Jackson got out of Atlanta? He said, you know, Memphis. He said, you know, I really don't know. And I said, Y.T. Walker has informed me that he has the key to that. He said, shit, why it's down here? Anyway.
First that shot king. They ran through the clubhouse and looked the old, poor, snaggletooth white lady in the face, named Grace Stevens.
Well, she was the one in the room with the door open in the hallway. She's the one who saw the person come out of the bathroom and run down the step after she heard the shot. She's the one who was showing pictures later on and said, no, this is not the man. I said, she described the man so that there are at least 2 descriptions of the man, the one that fits the person she saw and the one that fits James Earl Ray. Then when she...
That's the man, Charlie Stevens, who was drunk, who they got to say that he saw Ray leave the 3rd floor balcony, when in fact everybody testified that he was too drunk to know anything. And of course they put the woman, his wife, in the mental institution for 10 years
And that message
And Dick Gregory made a point of them going to the mental institution to sneak her out, put the flashlight on her face, and she says, if you're the government people, I'm going to tell you what I told before. That was James Earl Ray. That was not James Earl Ray I saw leave that third floor. And Dick said, it's us, it's us, it's not them, it's us. And they Mark Lane and them got her out of the hospital.
The whole economic structure was fitting to change in the South.
One thing Hosea Williams said, he wanted me to make a note of. I said, what shall I tell the people about your respect for your thinking about Martin King? He said, what's bothered me the most about Martin King was that he was a revolutionary. And that people have not, he said, I'm hurt that Martin has not been looked at that way. He said the march that broke up in Memphis, the march that broke up, that started the disruption, he said the FBI was in the front of the march. And the FBI is the one that started the provocation. And in fact, in the videotape, you hear one of the marchers say that the police kept driving the car bumper up on the legs of the women who were walking and kept hitting them with the bumper of the car. And being hit with the bumper of the car, said all of a sudden someone hollers out, cut this thing off, stop it. And that's when the fighting started. And that was the march that broke out into the riot that set the climate for the Fed, saying there could be no more marches there. He said he loved Martin King to death. He said we came in from the airport with Martin King. Jesse was already there. So you see Jesse walk up into the line of them going up to their rooms. We've tried to establish what room was Jesse in, or was Jesse even staying in the hotel. One thing we can't find in any book is where Jesse was staying, either at the Lorraine or elsewhere. Nowhere do we find a location of his bed. He came to Memphis several days earlier. Martin had sent for him an advance team with Bevel and Reverend Orange. He said in the meeting we had after the assassination, it was Jesse that told everybody don't talk to the media. You've seen Jesse 3 times. That's why no one else is out there, because Jesse asked everyone not to, left them in the room, walked out, and does. Now, when we pulled the article from Earl Caldwell, we found some interesting commentary in his column that ran the next day in the New York Times. He made some interesting commentary that we wanted to make a point of. Let's see if I mentioned Hosea. We asked Hosea about the informant. You know, the informant Harrison was Hosea's fraternity brother. And we know Jesse was Omega. We know Martin was Alpha. We know that the informant was a fraternity brother. We know Hosea was a fraternity. Al Sampson is an Omega. It appears as if most of the people in SCLC were an oath taker in some form. And that part of the Preacher Alliance, preachers are oath takers, was a Greek oath taking alliance. He said that Harrison's wife left him when she found out that he was an informant, because it made her remember all of the things he had said over the years and lying to her to be an informant, that she left him the day that they had found out that it was him. Now, it's one part of this Caldwell article I need to make sure we mention. The Caldwell article that appeared the day after the assassination in the New York Times. It says, this is Jesse's statement to Caldwell. He had just been over. If he had been standing up, he wouldn't have been shot in the face. Then I turned around. I saw the police coming from everywhere. They said, where did it come from? And I said, behind you. The police were coming where the shot came from. Mr. Ben Branch, asserted that the shot came from up the hill on the other side of the street. When I looked, the police and the sheriff's department were running around Jesse Jackson. When we didn't need to call the police, they were already all over the place. Kyle's. Dr. King stood up in the open for about 3 minutes. Mr. Jones, the driver, said a squad car of 4 police drove past at only minutes before. The police had been circulating throughout, presumably on precautionary patrol. Something, let's see, I was talking about the towel. Somebody talking about the towel. A last statement was from Andy Young, and Andy Young says, shit, I thought the police shot at him when they drove by. Now, that's Andy saying police, that's Andy saying the rooming house, and now on Turning Point, Andy says, I think maybe it came from the bushes. I don't think it came from the rooming house. I only thought when I pointed that way that it came from the rooming house. I watched Kyle say, you see them pointing that way? I pointed that way. We're trying to figure out who is the first person to point that way. It's just a very important thing. Now, yes, David.
That was in the BET special. It was a color establishment.
Oh, shit.
I think I have it.
Huh?
I think I have it. I got some blank. I didn't put a label on the thing.
You think you got the tape with you now?
Yeah. I'm not sure that's the tape. Yeah.
Okay, where the tape at?
I had it back here.
Okay, well, we can put it in and see if it's tape. I mean, if ain't no naked movie in there. We ain't got no problem. We ain't no problem. Okay, now, here's the article. This is the, I want you to hear this, so I don't want to forget it before we get down on time. I want you to hear this and make sure that you get it real good. Emerging rights leader. This is Friday, May 24th, 68, New York Times. No author's name is there. It says special to the New York Times. It said we have, there's a whole list of Jesse making demands. This excerpt from Jesse's speech in a Senate hearing room says, at age 26, he is one of the emerging leaders of SCLC. His speech was flawless, done through a bullhorn. On June 30th, Jesse Jackson will be ordained a minister in Chicago. He is the city manager of Resurrection City, USA. Oh, hold it now. Jackson looks like a leader. He's more than 6 feet tall and weighs more than 200 pounds. He always seems serious. He rarely smiles. According to his friends, he can carry on a conversation with white businessmen on the sociology of the black ghetto in 1 minute and shout the language of soul to black gang leaders the next. And he hasn't forgotten how to talk with his people he grew up with, said Dr. Robert Moore, Dean of the Chicago School of Theology. Jackson spent 2 full years at the seminary, 64 and 65, before his activities with Operation Breadbasket. Subtitle, Born in South Carolina. The program headed by Mr. Jackson is a new nationwide program at the personal request of Dr. King. Was organized to provide jobs and threatens boycotts against white businesses who don't cooperate. Dr. Moore said Jesse's been organizing the preachers of Chicago and got them to come out and fight for rights, blanket, blanket, blank. ... Mr. Jackson was born in Greenfield, South Carolina on October 8, 1941. The elder of 2 sons of Charles Henry Jackson, his father has worked as a maintenance man in the Greenville post office he's worked as a postman in the Greenville post office for almost a decade. His mother, Mrs. Helen Jackson, remembers him as, quote, a very handsome man, end of quote. He saved his money from jobs in a bakery, a theater, a drive-in restaurant, and elsewhere. He was also a Boy Scout. Mr. Jackson's right arm and his good looks got him through high school and into college, as the University of Illinois offered him a football scholarship. But after a year, he transferred to North Carolina A&T, where he became an All-American collegiate, star quarterback, head of the student government, honor student, national officer of his fraternity. There, he became interested in civil rights and led students into the segregated restaurants in the Greensboro. Now, this is a fucking article 30 days after Martin's dead. On this side, they're condemning Resurrection City. On this side, they're running Jesse Jackson, the man. I screamed when I saw my child's picture in the paper. when he was first arrested, since this in Greensville, this is his mother. Since then, I just know he's made up his mind to go with it. And you know, he's a powerful figure. He's God-given, and I'm just real proud of him. At North Carolina A&T, he met his future wife, Jacqueline, and they lived in South Carolina and have 3 children. Santina 5, Jesse Jr. age 3, and Jonathan Luther, 1 year old. I had to handwrite this all on thing. Mr. Jackson still finds sports relaxing enough. Mr. Jackson still finds sports relaxing. Everything from basketball to table tennis. His favorite music is soul and spiritual. And he's known to be fond of fried chicken and pinto beans. But his mother says his favorite dish is peach ice cream, which she made the last time he came home, which was last fall. End of story. He's 6 feet tall, 200 pounds. Fried chicken and pinto beans. Born October 8th, 1941. He was an all-star quarterback. He was student government leader. He was national officer in his fraternity. This is a goddamn bio.
Jesse, he's our man.
It's a
he never was a minister.
No, he never was.
Jesse, he's our man.
He was never ordained a minister.
Right, he never got ordained. He never finished school. But that's deep. Yeah, that's deep. That you can see that he was being. Now this is May 24th. What day was assassination? April 4th. Okay, now. 2 things I need to do. I need to pass the hat. I got one thing I want to put on while we're doing this. I need to pass the hat. We had quite a few people who didn't have any donation tonight, so any donation you can make, I greatly appreciate it. Don't forget, last week's tape is on video for only $20. I got 4 of them left. Last week's audio tape is only $10. The footage that I want to show you as we're moving on to do the donation has to do with the Fox broadcast on the assassination. At one point, they go into the evidence room. They open up the Memphis evidence room. They open up the Memphis evidence room, and you see on the file cabinet it says McCullough, right on the file cabinet. And it's got some other things on the file cabinet's names that we find very interesting that we've got to decodify. But we were really intrigued by that article on Jackson, and we're pulling all of the others. His interview with Hefner and Playboy, as Hefner calls him, the heir apparent, all the way down the line. We got them all on the move. Anyway, I'm gonna put on Peace Out Show. Now, the next lecture will be Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock. And Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock. We're going to start off. How many of you all can come Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock? Yes, right here at the cafe.
What day is that?
Yeah, this Saturday at 2 o'clock. Who can come? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. I hope you can come if you can. For the month of August, the lectures are going to move to Saturday from 2 to 6. I'm going to put a flyer out. I got a flyer already. And Dexter King with James O'Ray from the prison.
He told her, I made a mistake in taking this case.
What's important is when Pepper goes at Jesse, we've seen this before.
Ray spoke Dr. King. He says
he makes the comment about evidence that is not true, and Pepper challenged. Anyway, I'm going to take the donation.
But they're not active.
I appreciate your support.
In the case, they're involved in shooting of the purchasing of the rifles, James Rory stalked Dr. King. He says he did not. Well, the 4 years of an inquiry about it.
I'm trying, sister. I'm getting out of here now. I'm doing donation. You got to do donation there. Anybody?
Whom I have much.
All right, man. I appreciate y'all. Anybody? I appreciate
you. For the testimony by James Rory, millions of dollars in research. Here's what it came out.
Oh, no, we don't want you to do that, sister. I know you're down there reading this stuff. Okay.
That he shot him.
Oh, excuse me, sister.
That made me so negative debate about was he given the
Anybody, I respect it. Thank you all very much. I appreciate you. I ain't trying to put pressure on y'all on the money.
Somebody financed him. And to me, the question that remains, what role that the right-wing played in enabling him to do that. I do not think James Rory is telling the whole truth. I think he wants a hearing to let us know who all was involved. He does not get the young Raul. He should stay in jail.
All right, James, how do you react to what Jesse just said?
Anybody? I got anybody?
I think very much Jackson, he's always taking that position. So,
okay.
You know, he has a right to take the position he wants.
You have nothing beyond Raul to offer. In other words, the only person you know in all of this who gave you any money or you were involved.
I want you to see this. Don't move. I don't want you to move because you got to hear this conflict back and forth.
Raul, he's been identified and
now they're telling Jesse that Raul's been identified, but Jesse's still sitting there.
Identified him.
But I need indication. The only one you knew, you didn't know any right-wing groups, any militia, anyone in the government. All you knew was Raul.
I wasn't involved in no massive investigation. I mean, conspiracy like Reverend Jackson suggested. I didn't know any right-wing groups or anything like that. I just got out of penitentiary. I would have to be contacting all these various groups.
You said you were involved indirectly. What does indirectly mean? You just happened to have been following him, happened to have been happened to have bought the rifle. You said you didn't do what you indirectly. What does indirectly mean?
No, indirectly means in a penitentiary. Usually people don't run around saying, well, I did this, I did that. They might refer to something indirectly.
Without murder, he either did it or he didn't.
Well, I'm talking about jailhouse language. I'm not talking about
okay, language. Let me get a break and go away.
What does this risk management mean?
Talking about but Dexter, a lot of people are saying that there's some financial gain in this movie. Some rumors that you're talking to Oliver Stone about a movie, and